K-pop Demon Hunters and Christian Allegory? We'll see.
Hello and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fiction.
Welcome, everyone, to our live Friday broadcast at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you are able to join us, we would love to see you. We have Purpose Behind the Pen. Good morning to you. And Catherine Carroll also wishing us a beautiful, wonderful good morning. I'm so happy that it's Friday. I'm obviously a little over the top today. I hope I'm not too scattered for that reason. But anyway, if you can join us live, please do so. We have a very active chat, a vibrant community of writers, not a dud in the bunch is what I like to say. Excuse me. So if you need a little bit of extra community and support, we'd love to see you live on Fridays at 10. However, if you can't catch us live, that's great, because you know what? We appreciate all of you listening to us on any platform where you find your other favorite podcasts. And if you are one of those wonderful listeners on other platforms, would you mind coming over to YouTube, please, and just giving us a subscribe, because we have a goal to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. And if you listen but aren't able to catch us live, that's fine. But you will help us reach more indie Christian writers by giving us a subscribe on YouTube. So please do that. All right. So with all of that sort of maintenance stuff out of the way, we can dive into our topic, which is a very fun one. And I have to say, I volunteered to be in the host seat today because I am not somebody who's been into K-pop Demon Hunters the way that these ladies have been. So why don't one of you just explain why we chose this topic today?
I think it's funny that you say that, like, we're into it, because when my daughters watch it first, now mind you, teenage daughters, not young children, high schoolers that I have, and they're like, Mom, you have to watch this movie. And I'm like, what's it called? And they told me, I'm like, and I saw the animation. I'm like, girls, I don't have time. But they convinced me to sit down and watch it with them. And the first 5 minutes, this is me the whole time. Arms crossed, saying, "Oh, we sing so well, we can battle demons." Oh, and I am out loud criticizing the movies, and my girls are like, "Mom, stop! Just wait." And after 5 minutes, I was glued. It's so good. The writing is good, the animation is good, the music is good. I was not expecting any of that. And in perspective, I love me a good Barbie movie. I don't mean the Barbie movie. I mean, the original Barbie cartoon movies that came out that are so bad, they're great. We own all of them. We'll every so often we'll pull one out, we'll watch them. We quote from them, my girls and I. So I was expecting that level, but it being cheesier, and I was pleasantly surprised. What about you, Tina? What was your experience?
Well, first of all, before I'd ever even understood what this movie was or that it existed, my 8-year-old granddaughter was singing the songs. And then my daughter mentioned it. And so of course, my algorithm started throwing stuff into my feed. And the first one that I saw was a Korean K-pop producer who's a Christian, talking about the movie and going through what he saw as Christian, basically allegory in the movie, even though it was designed to do that. And then my daughter,
but not the producer, not the producer,
just a
different producer,
K-pop producer. So, and I think he was an ex-producer, because he stopped doing that because he's a Christian. He became a Christian and he wanted to do other things. So then my daughter said, "Oh, Mom, you have to watch it." And I don't have Netflix. So I had to wait for my daughter to come over and sign into Netflix on my TV. And then we watched it. And now some of the songs live rent free in my head. So
okay,
I'm
so
not
it's
even
one
kidding.
movie. It's one movie, or is it like a
Yes,
series?
it's
What
one
is it?
movie, but it's
Okay.
already been like approved for like 2 more sequels. I know this because my teenage daughters were like, "Yeah!" like when they found out. So to be very clear, it's not a Christian movie. That was not the intent. It's actually based on Korean folklore and on the religion of that folklore. And so but when you watch it, we saw so many, like both Tina and I were discussing it. We saw so many like parts of the plot that point to Christian themes. And so we thought, so as we were talking about, I'm like, well, it's definitely, there's a lot of allegory there, but so we're talking about as writers, like allegory can be difficult sometimes. And sometimes it's hard for people even to spot the allegory, let alone write it. So we thought maybe we should have this as a topic. We should chat this up today.
I love that. Okay, and so you saw many things in the plot that point to Christianity. What are those things? And no particular order, I guess. You guys want to point some of those out?
well, I am that grandma
Mhm.
who will stop the movie while my granddaughter is watching it and saying, look at this demon whose name, by the way, is devil backwards in Korean. So in Korean the word for devil is kima, and or no, the character's name is Kima, is the main demon, but the devil in Korean is Maki, so it's like devil
Mhm.
backwards. And so I stopped, and his symbol is the head of a lion. And then at one point, the mane disappears and horns appear where the mane had been. And I like stopped the movie, and I'm like, "Do you know what the scripture says?" The scripture says that the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And so we
Mhm.
talked about that, and then I play the movie again. um, then there was one part where one character sacrificed their life for another character. So of course grandma has to stop the movie and say, Jesus said greater love has no man than this, that he give up his life for his friends. Like, so I was doing that like through the movie. I'm like, look at this, like check this out, like how does that relate to our faith? So
There's
And
another
then
character.
go ahead,
Sorry.
Jen. Yeah.
There's another character too that is trying to hide something about herself. Like she's like, it's a, we could label it as sin, though she was, I guess, born with it. Which hello, born with sin, and she's trying to hide it. And it isn't until she's able to confess it and to put it out there that that she's able to be forgiven and be able to be healed from it. And so we talked about that how he is faithful to and just to forgive. So
right.
was a big one for me.
And there's a lot of themes in the songs, especially that talk about light and dark. The one that gets me every time is, I should have seen the beauty in the broken glass. It reminds me of that story they tell about how the pot that the potter made broke, and he glued it back together, and then he put a candle in it and the light would shine out through the cracks. That's a common Christian story that I hear. And then they say, I should have let my jagged pieces meet the light, like that kind of stuff. And Jesus said, I am the light of the world. Like, so, and those living in darkness have seen a great light is part of prophecy. So there's like the dark and light themes from the gospel are in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
so this is not in our outline. Sorry. I just feel like we need to like real quickly, like kind of jump in here, that if you were a parent or a grandparent and you've not seen this yet, and you have not allowed your children or grandchildren to watch it because of you afraid of like the worldly things that are going to be in it, I think it was handled really well, as long as you sit with your kids. And it's not a Christian movie, so they don't like, they don't lean on Jesus for the salvation and things like that. But I think it's a great conversation piece. And there are some scary parts. I will say, I feel like for little kids, even though a lot of little kids watch this, I feel like there are some parts animated that can be very kind of in the same vein that I felt with The Princess and the Frog. I thought that there was the evil, the way it was presented in that movie was very scary to me. I thought for little kids, my kids were not afraid of it. So when they're little. So I feel like the same way there. But just a heads up, like I think it's definitely worth watching and having these conversations with your kids. And again, well done, good music. Very wholesome music, a wholesome story. There's nothing like there's no
spicy, no swearing.
There's no spicy, there's no agenda. I'll just say that way. There was no agenda there, though some people are trying to push and say, oh yeah, there's a hidden agenda. No, I don't see it at all.
And one of the writers of the songs is a Christian. And so that, we always talk about how who we are comes out in what we create. And so I really feel like her faith came out in her helping write these songs. And like, there's this one song that's kind of dark. It's called I'm Your Idol. And it talks about, but there's a line in that song that says, you gave me your heart, now I'm taking your soul. And I felt like that was a really great place to stop it. And I talked to my granddaughter about like what she listens to and what she idolizes, like pop music and even like the things she watches on TV and all of that. That was a great place to stop and have a lesson about that.
Yeah, that was not a positive song. That was actually a song that was like the bad guys.
Demons were singing it.
Demons were singing it. But like in a very it's a great catchy song, and those people that were singing it were like attractive, and everyone was like, oh, like fangirling over it, and it was so blatant. Like I felt like that song, it could just be a Christian song, honestly. Like what Tina just quoted is so true. Like it's in our society, like you idolize me, I'm going to take your soul. Like it's really well done. Yeah.
And then I wanted to mention the Han Moon, which is like this kind of like a protective thing. I really don't know how to explain it. That is over the world, protecting the people. And when they sing, they like replenish the Han Moon. And the idea is to get it to turn gold. That's why there's that song, I'm going to be golden, because they want the Han Moon to. So once at the, and that word Han Moon actually means the door to the soul in Korean. And so I just wanted to point out that John 10:9, Jesus said, I am the gate. So like you can, like, these are just things that you can look at as allegory and use them to like educate your children or yourself or like whoever.
All right. Well, just real quickly before we move on, I wanted to say good morning to Christy and Sadie listening in Kentucky, homeschooling mom and daughter combo. Just always love it when you're able to join us. And also good morning to Piper, who contributes absolutely Who We Are shows in our work. And now she's going to look up the writers of the show and the music. So awesome. Okay. So if you can find Allegory in the movie KPop Demon Hunters, where else can you find it? When we were planning this episode, Tina is pointing out how she's grandma-ing her way through the movie. And I kind of said, yeah, you could become the most annoying mom ever and be that mom who turns everything into a life lesson, which sounds like Tina was probably that kind of mom and has now evolved into that kind of grandmother.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Tina, you had a funny example, right?
I did, but remind me what it was.
It was about when you spill your cereal. You spill your cereal and then you're like, just like when we turn our backs on God and everything falls apart.
Oh, I don't think that was mine. So that's probably why I was
that's
confused.
Probably why you don't remember. But I mean, that's not wrong, right? So like if you are gonna, like honestly, if only we had enough subscribers to actually have some critics pushing back. If we had critics, they would probably be like, oh, come on. You are stretching things to find these allegories or kind of whatever. But like, what is wrong with that, really? Right?
Yeah. Because God created the world to reflect him, right? So if we don't see him in everything, then maybe there's something wrong with us, right?
I mean, and it's funny because Christians are so great at eating their own on this stuff, aren't they? Like, you call yourself a Christian and yet, so like, whatever. But what is wrong with trying to find allegory everywhere? If you have eyes to see it, you'll see things like seeds dying and then coming back to life. You can see seasons changing, storms and calm, all of that. You can, wax poetic about how that's allegorical. And doesn't that just enhance your life and make it more beautiful? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Totally.
Relationships. We call God our Father. And I was just doing a meditation yesterday morning with the Lord's Prayer. And it's like a guided prayer on this app that I have. And the guy said, imagine what that means. God is your father. And so I started thinking about my dad, how his job was to protect me and provide for me and teach me and correct me when I was wrong and encourage me when I was needing encouragement. And I was just sitting there, like I had 2 minutes of silence to think about all this. And I was thinking of all the things that my dad, his job was to do for me. And those are the same things that God does for us. He provides for us. He protects us. He corrects us. He guides us.
And he knows things you don't know in your youth and immaturity, just like a small child doesn't have the whole big picture that a human father has, right?
Right. And then I left out the love part. like all my years of running away from home and all the things that I did as a rebellious teenager, and his love was unconditional. Like he never withheld it. Mm-hmm. So, and also marriage is a great picture of Christ and the church. And the Bible brings that up all the time.
Well, where else does the world manifest some good opportunities for allegory? And the reason that we're talking about this, sorry to maybe kind of like jump ahead in the outline, but we're trying to train you to recognize it for a reason. Okay. That's kind of why we're talking about this. So you might want to like take a look at art and pop culture. Tina, you had a really good example from way back, right?
Yeah. That the song "I Will Follow Him" from Sister Act. I thought like they took a popular like song that a lounge singer would sing, and they changed a couple words and turned it into like "I will follow him. He's my." Instead of saying "my guy," they said "my God." So that's one example in pop culture. Another one is, and God actually used this in my own life when I was struggling to feel his love for me. This song, "All I Ask of You" from Phantom of the Opera, is actually like a duet between Christine, who's the main character, and this other guy. And they were saying things like, spend it each day with me, each night, each morning, anywhere you go, let me go too. Like it was just this love song between Christine, which my name is Christina. So it was really powerful for me. Like this idea of that it could be Jesus singing to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think like K-pop Demon Hunters, I think that we can look to lots of media and see allegory. I think that God is the original storyteller, right? And the Bible is the greatest story ever told. So much of our culture and our cultural references and our and stories and movies and songs are all going to be rooted, whether people want it to be before they realize it or not, are going to be rooted in our creator, because there's something in each one of us that yearns for our creator. And so I think that his truths show up in the structure of story. When you think about how stories are even plotted, like I talk about, and I call them disasters, right? But like there's the fall, the redemption, the restoration, even the resurrection in some stories, so even the way we structure our stories is going to fall into a pattern where allegory, it will be present. So
yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Jen. That is a very beautiful sentiment to share, and also helps us transition into kind of like why we're spending so much time talking about how to spot allegory. We want to talk about using it in your work, right? So we're talking about the purpose of allegory in Christian storytelling.
Right. Well, I can't help but think of stories like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was definitely a Christian allegory. And you had Aslan, which was a type of Christ, and all the things. And so you can, and like, I feel like my job, so to speak, as a Christian author is to teach the truth about God in a creative way that gets people thinking about truth, even though it's fiction.
That's really great that you have your mission so clearly identified like that. I covet such a mission statement. Very nice. Yeah, so The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, that's a good example of using allegory to convey spiritual truths, right?
But any story, really, because you have good versus evil.
Mm-hmm.
You have somebody that often needs redemption from something.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have these character arcs where they start out in a, usually, I mean, it can be the other way around. Sometimes they start out like in the light and end up in the dark and then back to the light. But also a lot of times they start in the dark and their journey toward the light. And maybe it's they need to learn to love themselves, or they need to learn, forgiveness, or they need to, whatever it is, it's a redemption arc.
Mm-hmm. And the characters, sorry.
Go ahead.
And the characters are, they're going to be symbolic, right? So, I mean, you can have really like obvious allegory, but majority of allegory is going to be, you're going to have characters that are going to symbolize either certain aspects of the spiritual journey or spiritual truths. And then those symbolic characters are then going to, you have characters that symbolize, and then you have the story, like what Tina was saying, that are going to symbolize what's happening to them. Because it's what an allegory is trying to do is that it's not just simply telling a story. It's trying to take a more complex idea or a more complex, even theological idea, and try to simplify it down in a more entertaining way. Let's be honest. Because I don't think that the big theological books that are on the shelf of the bookstore are the ones that are selling off the shelves really fast. No, it's the fantasy novels that are, or the even the Christian romance novels are selling faster than those, So it's a way to make these concepts more accessible and in an entertaining way to more people.
Sort of like if you didn't know what allegory was, and instead of like reading definitions about it, you like watched a podcast to help you. Oh, okay. So why does allegory resonate so much with readers? People love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Because you see yourself in the story, right?
Ooh,
it hits you
in
a personal way.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to read like the works of John Wesley, like it might be interesting, and I'm sure I would learn. And I'm sure that there are parts of it that would speak to my spirit. But when I read a story from Jeanette Oak of a woman who just wants to be loved and thinks she's found the person, there's all these things that are coming against her, like I can resonate with that, right? And so it makes us look at ourselves and us become that character too. It also helps us to see God in everyday life. Like I've talked before about how I feel like reading Christian romance as a young woman helped me to like have a better perspective on what sex and marriage was, and to know what I wanted to save myself for. And again, I could have read a book on sex and marriage by some, pastor or whatever, but instead to see a character that I could relate to, that I could see myself in, it helped me to resonate with God's truth in just everyday life.
Yeah, and if you look back at the history of storytelling and you go back to the very beginning, to the purpose of story, the purpose of story was caveman A went out of the cave and he came into an encounter with the saber-toothed tiger, and he survived the encounter with the saber-toothed tiger. Well, how did he survive? He came back and told a story. And then everybody else in the cave learned from his story that there's saber-toothed tigers out there and that they're deadly, but that you can survive them. And this is how you do it. And so, like, that's a very simplistic idea, but we take that same idea and we apply it to the spiritual battles and the temptations and the struggles that we all face. And you put those into a story and you see your character overcoming them. You see them contemplating in their head, like you see them thinking about it. And it makes you think about your struggles and your temptations and your things that you need to overcome and how you could follow their example to get there, to get where you want to go.
Yeah, and I remember you saying frequently that, like, when you're reading about somebody riding a bike, like, you literally physically feel like you're the one riding the bike, right?
Well, your brain believes you are. There's a part of your brain that believes you are.
My brain doesn't, because I don't know how to ride a bike.
I
never learned.
Wow.
Just like riding a bike, Jen would be like, oh, yeah, so it's impossible.
You know, I sit around every day and watch workout videos. It's not doing any good.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. All right. The biblical roots of allegory, there's parables and revelation imagery, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all throughout there.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about that. It's almost like we brushed around the edges of allegory and finally decided we needed to have a whole episode about it, and we have talked before about that. We do have some stuff in the chat here. Let's see. Oh, so Christy, being the most annoying mom ever, joke, it's a joke. She had a hawk get one of her chickens this week. She was too far from the coop to get to safety. All I could think about was how my own heart tends to want to stray, and the hawks are circling and waiting. Very, very good allegory. Very nice. Mm-hmm. Christy, thank you for sharing that. Piper says, she's heard a lot of modern media, Star Wars, Marvel movies, etc., in sermons. Yeah. I one time heard a Titanic reference in a sermon. It was so funny because I was complaining at the in some other environment. I was like, and that pastor spoiled the end of the movie. And someone was like, you didn't know that the ship sinks? I was like, no, that was not the spoiler. Anyway, let's see. Annalie says, good morning. Love today's topic. We all look amazing as well. That's very nice. She heard they lived happily forever might originate from the fact that God has put eternity in our hearts.
That's good.
Interesting.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And then Christy finally said, Tina and I would be banned from all theaters because she is the same way about stopping to explain and elaborate.
That's why we watch it at home, so that we...
All right.
The popcorn just isn't as good at home. That's the only difference.
You got to buy the right stuff to put on your popcorn.
Yes, that's the next topic of the author's salon. So join our Patreon and learn how to make movie theater popcorn. How about that, friends?
Yeah.
At home.
I can't wait.
All right. So I know it's going to be a great one. So writing allegory as a Christian author, how do we intentionally weave allegory into our writing? It sounds hard, honestly.
Well, you're going to start with a spiritual theme, I would think. You would have to decide what theme it is that you want to, or what spiritual truth that you want to convey. And then you'd build your characters or events, like the storyline to reflect it. I think characters next. What do you think, Tina? And then the story.
Well, that's how I do it. Mm-hmm. So like this book I'm working on right now, I wanted the theme of faith to be the front and center. And I wanted my main character to have unshakable faith. And so how do you get your character to have unshakable faith? Well, you have to shake her. And it's set in Alaska. So my brain went straight to earthquake. So, there's a whole lot of allegory in my book about our world being shaken and how you can still have faith through the shaking.
And I think using
Okay.
symbolism is important when you're
Yep.
do allegory. And I think that like this is the exact time that you would want to do a show don't tell. Like you don't want to tell people what the allegory is. You don't want to tell them what you're trying to show. Your characters need to act it out. They need to like Tina's book, The Unshakable Faith. You don't tell them that she has very shakable faith right now. You don't need to tell them that. You need to show them that her faith is weak and then show how to get strong.
Yes. And I would say that if you're not so much of a plotter, then when you're sprinting, when you're writing, examine what you've already written and see what truths have already naturally emerged that you could then turn into allegory. If you accidentally stumble upon the theme of forgiveness, say, then you can work kind of backwards to have your characters and your symbolism show that in your writing. So there's two different approaches there, right?
Mm-hmm.
When would we want to avoid using allegory in our work?
I think that if it overshadows the actual intent of the story or the novel, for example, in my, let's my second book. No, let's do the third book. No, let's do.
There's so many books. Doesn't that feel exciting?
I'm sorry. What the listeners don't know is I'm battling a headache right now. So I'm just trying to so when my point of my story of my second book with Esther is one of the things was I wanted to show that she was going to be standing up for herself in the story. I could have really leaned into, because she's named Esther and I just want to wink at the biblical Esther who stood up for her people. But that's really the only kind of part of the story that is the fact that she stood up for a group of people. I don't want to give it too much away if you haven't read it, but she stood up for a group of people that were no one stood up for them, basically. And I could have leaned into that more and tried to be more allegorical with it, but then I would have, I think, lost the actual storyline of the people that she was staying up for, and then the love story. Like I would have muddled it when ultimately this was a love story between John and Esther, and I had a wink to the biblical story there. So if it's going to overshadow what the ultimate goal of your story is, then you would probably not want to use it.
Jen, I was going to make a joke about you had originally had in your original draft a scene where they were playing with scallions and they were putting little wigs on them and making them run around doing Bible stories. But then I decided that maybe the joke would fall flat. So
VeggieTales. Yeah, I get it. No, that's not my story.
Yeah, because I made her cut it. I told her it was going to overshadow it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. It is a great example though. You should go watch some VeggieTales. Never hurts.
Yeah. All right. So if the story would be better if you're just direct, maybe there's no reason to bother with allegory, right? I sometimes find an allegory to be so annoying personally. I really am not a fan of some of these other works, nothing that's been mentioned today, but whatever. Sometimes because I feel like it feels like a contrivance. Like when it was originally written, it was the newest, freshest thing out there. And so people really were in love with it. But I feel like it's been kind of done now. And so anyway, sometimes direct and realistic is a better way to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really lends itself to fantasy because fantasy, it's just naturally like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But if you're writing a detective story, I'm not sure allegories. I don't know how you would fit allegory into that.
I mean, it's probably a possibility, but you're probably better off just using other devices like metaphors and like that to make your.
I had to laugh at that because all good detectives have some kind of vice.
It's true.
Right. Yes. Maybe there's allegory there. Maybe the bottle is his original sin, or I don't even know. But it's also fun to kind of have secret allegories, right? Only your true fans would, or anybody who cares to listen to you pontificating on a talk show would know about. Anyway, some genres, as Tina said, are very much more amenable to allegory. Like light versus darkness is super kind of easy to come by if you're writing certain genres, right?
Exactly.
Can you think of any other genres or types of fiction where it would be easier, sort of, to weave allegory in?
I think maybe science fiction, or even like what do they even call it? Like the serial killer kind of
Noir, like noir
no
thrillers.
thrillers. That's what I'm thinking of. Like you have like almost a devil, and then you have like the angel who's trying to save people from getting killed by the devil. Like I don't know. That's kind of a stretch, but.
Well, and like horror, I guess they would call it, right? Where it's like, we were talking a lot about Ted Dekker stuff, right?
Yeah, I think he considers himself fantasy. But yeah, a lot of horror. Like there's monsters, and then there's the people that are after the monsters. So.
I mean, and I think that romance stuff, there's too many examples of writers that have used it in their writing to write a whole story, honestly, that to say that like you can't do it in romance or that it's not done well. I do it in little bits. My whole story isn't allegory, but there are romance novels out there that the whole story is allegory that you can find. Like it'll be, they'll take something from like a story in the Bible and they will just rewrite. They'll do an entire novel that is allegorical to that story. So
I think Redeeming Love
that's the one that came to my mind too. Only because I watched the movie recently, which by the way, that's a whole nother topic. And I know it's old news because I did not watch it. Yeah, Francine Rivers, not just that book. She's done some of her other books are that way. But I know I'm old to the movie. I didn't watch the movie for a while because there was some negative press, and I watched it, and I have thoughts. But that'll be in the salon too. that'll be in the Patreon,
which is this coming up Tuesday. So hurry up and join Patreon.
It's the second Tuesday.
Oh, I'm sorry. My head is already October.
It is October.
See, I'm just lost.
But I think haven't had a Tuesday
2 weeks from Tuesday. It's a week from this coming up Tuesday.
Yes.
So that's how much time you have to join our Patreon. It's only $5.
The 14th. How about that? The 14th of October. And I know that we're running short on time, but just real quickly, can we just talk about the difference between allegory and symbolism super fast? Only because the example that immediately comes to mind is Jen's Red Roses, but that's not allegory. That's symbolism, right? So can someone help the listeners and me understand the difference?
So real quick, my Red Roses is again in my book too, that I use throughout the book to draw my character John. I have a whole scene where it draws him back into the past, but the red roses symbolize something to him. So symbolism usually uses individual objects or characters to present like an abstract idea. Like for him, it was like very specifically like that women can't be trusted. And there is a story there, but for him, like the looking at the roses, it reminded him as he was starting to slip into love with who he thought was Phoebe, but it was Esther. It's a good book. You need to go read it. Then the flowers were symbolic of his struggle with letting go and falling in love, basically. Where allegory is more of like it's the whole story. It's more of a whole storyline that will represent something else, usually something spiritual.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we move on from our main topic?
No.
All right. Okay, so in that case, it's time to move on to my favorite part of the episode, which is the feeding of the bags. This is giving feedback on writing sprints that we perform before the show. We take 15 minutes to write to the same sprint prompt, and then we only give positive feedback here because we don't edit these before we share them. So Jen, what was our sprint prompt today, and what did you write?
So it's first Friday of the month. So it's 5 words on our first Friday, 5 words, because that's how we remember things. And the words were variable, second, beneficiary, black, and frank. And I was able to use 4 of the words. And this is
Nice.
not in any world. This just came out. So let's be frank. The second you became the beneficiary, your perspective changed. Eloise didn't look at me when she said it, just merely glanced down her long, thin nose at her black Armani dress. Bony fingers picked at a non existent piece of lint, the red of her long manicured nails starkly contrasting the dark sadness her dress attempted to portray. I rubbed my hands down my Walmart skirt. And what, pray tell, was my perspective before? I asked, not really interested in the answer. She finally turned her attention to me, icy blue eyes as cold as her attitude crackled. You know as well as I do, as well as everyone in this room knows, that you couldn't stand the woman. Her illness brought on a newfound tenderness from you, and the change wasn't lost on any of us. I would think that her illness should have brought tenderness toward her from everyone, not just me. Knowing she was dying should have made us all draw near to her. And to her fortune, she said bluntly. You are assuming that she hadn't already chosen me as beneficiary before she became ill, I said dryly, enjoying the twitch it caused at the corner of her eye. And you only noticed me drawing near to her once she was ill because that's when you decided to start noticing her. I stood. So, since we are being frank, we both know that it was your intent to be at her bedside these last months, and you're only angry now because the spot was already taken. I turned and walked away, hoping that I appeared far more confident than I was, because in fact, I wasn't at all certain that I was her beneficiary. 3, 2, 1. I actually stole an extra 30 seconds.
I love it. It's very. Go ahead, Tina.
I so want to know this whole story.
I feel like it's a complete story. That's what's so funny. Like, I feel like I'm Jamie right now. I feel like there's a beginning, middle, and end, and I'm satisfied with it. Like, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I love the crackling of the eyes. I love appreciating the eyebrow twitch. I love that you said so much by just referencing she's wearing Armani and the other girl's wearing Walmart. It like you said, it does everything it needs to do to give you that. It has the shattering moment. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this piece. And it really shows your writing skill. So I hope anybody who hasn't checked out your work will do so.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love how she smoothed her Walmart skirt. Like, you didn't have to tell us what color it was. You didn't have to tell us what else she was wearing.
Right.
Like, it got the point across. That she was not, like, as classy as this other lady who thought she was all that.
I appreciate that, because I started to put a color in and I went back and erased it because I felt like it was too clunky. And you saying that just confirmed that I made the right choice. So, thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Okay, I'll go next. So it's not too much of me talky in a row. I think I got all the words. Maybe not second. Anyway, Sarah sighed. She wondered how much longer she would have to sit there. But she was a very good girl and would never complain. She'd already been scolded once for fidgeting, so she was sitting very still, only allowing herself to fiddle with the lacy flounces of her skirt and closing and opening the triangle that her shiny white strappy shoes made at the end of her purple-clad legs, which stuck out from the chair the way the Wicked Witch of the West legs stuck out from underneath Dorothy's house. She imagined them curling up the way the others had done in the movie. The man Mommy and Daddy were talking to was talking about something called a variable interest rate. Sarah did not know the word ironic, but she knew the word interest and thought it strange that the man would use the word while talking in such a boring way about the most uninteresting things. She had tried hard and failed to listen, to learn what it was all about. And so now she had tried hard and failed to listen and learn what it was all about. And so now she was left to sit and wonder when her mom and dad would wrap up this conversation and take her over to Frank and Beanie's to get her Beanie Weenie kids meal. Her stomach made a gurgling sound, and she made an effort to quietly mimic the sound in the back of her throat. She got it almost right. She tried again. Mom gave her a look. She stopped trying to mimic the noise. I am so bored, she thought. scanning the room for a new diversion. Her eyes settled on a little wooden triangle on the man's desk, to which was affixed a black piece of plastic, onto which the man's name was engraved in silver filigree. Robert Cobb, it read. Sarah wondered if he was ever called Bob or only Robert. Bob Cobb, she thought. Bob Cobb, Bob Cobb, Bob Cobb. The words became a little song in her head, and she bounced her head, fluffed the ruffle of her dress, and opened and shut her shoe triangle to the rhythm. She wished she had a bongo drum to beat along with it. In spite of her wacky foot-flopping motion, she started to feel the familiar pins and needles feeling in her feet she sometimes got when sitting for too long. She was settling in for a session of properly examining these sensations when, miracle of miracles, her parents stood and shook hands with Bob Cobb. Hooray! She almost shouted as she jumped from her chair. Almost immediately, she stumbled forward and crashed into her mother. My feet fell asleep, she cried. Oh, I almost forgot she was over there, declared Bob Cobb. Sarah's dad scooped her up. You were a very good girl. Would you like to get some ice cream after you've had your beanie weenies? Sarah squeezed his neck in reply. Being told she was a very good girl was the only sweet treat she required.
Okay, I love this. First of all, my favorite part was the opening and closing of her foot triangle. Like, when you said that, I was like, I never would have thought to write about it. I never would have thought to have like put it that way. But like, it put me in the moment. Like, I love when you write kids, first of all. So well done. And is Beanie Weenies a thing? Because I really want this to be a thing. But
it's so funny. I had a friend whose parents would make something called Wiener Bean Pot. Isn't that funny? But I have seen Beanie Weenies actually in a can. It's really just hot dogs with baked beans. So. Mm-hmm.
But if you put the baked beans in a casserole dish and you cut the hot dogs up, mix it in, and then you put some ketchup and mustard and brown sugar, and then you mix that in, and then you put it in the oven and bake it, that's really good.
I was just trying to make up a random Franks and Beans place that you would go because of the word Frank. And so I just kind of was winging it.
A fast food restaurant that serves beans and Franks. I'm here for it. That's so awesome.
Exactly.
And for a kid to be excited about it is another thing that's even better.
Yes. It's funny. At my server job, we have something called Franks and Beans lunch, and it's not even on the menu, but people who know that it's there. And you get 2 hot dogs and a side of beans, and you still get 2 sides and bread. It's like amazing. So the people who like it really are into it and order it all the time.
Yeah, awesome.
I really like your comparing her feet to the Wicked Witch of the West and how they were going to curl up. Like that, like I had a total picture of that in my head. That was a really great moment.
I was just trying to remember an unelectrical childhood. Like, this is how it was for us in the when I was growing up. I don't want to mention the decade because then I will feel super old, but we didn't have a phone to divert us, and we had to sit there and be quiet. All right. Well, thanks for the positive feedback. Tina, I'd love to see what you did with this prompt.
I only used one of the words.
Hey, that's fine.
You wrote.
Sometimes I wave at the prompt on the way by.
How many did you get, Jamie?
Almost all of 4 out of 5, which is odd for me. So Tina, you and I flip places.
Yeah, I did use the opposite of one of the words. I don't know if that counts, but
all right.
And this is definitely not allegory. So
okay.
I took a second to think before I picked up the phone. Was this really an emergency? It was definitely suspicious. What possible reason could there be for someone to park at the side of the road and then sit in their vehicle for over 2 hours? Maybe some investigation was needed. I grabbed my keys and went out to my car, setting my phone high in the holder that was stuck into the air vent. Then I hit record. I pulled out and turned slowly at the intersection, the camera pointed at the front and side of the white SUV for several seconds. Sure enough, there was a guy sitting in the driver's seat, just like last time. I'd gotten close enough to see. He had one of those silver things in the dashboard window that you use to block the sunlight. I drove a few blocks, then checked my footage. Darn it, I exclaimed. My dashboard was in perfect focus, but everything out the window was blurry. I replaced the camera, hit record again, and this time touched the screen above the dashboard, making the little focus box appear. I drove back toward home, coming up behind the white SUV slowly to be sure the license plate number was visible. Back in my driveway, I checked my footage again. Perfect. And the license plate number was clearly visible. I sent the videos to my husband. Call the police, he texted back. But something inside me hesitated. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. I decided to watch and wait. 2 days later, I looked out the front window and there was that same white SUV. I texted a picture to my husband. Call the police, he texted back again. I'm not sure I feel comfortable doing that, I replied. I'm texting the neighbor across the street, he said. Our neighbor was naturally suspicious. I remembered how he'd once set up a video camera in his window to record the strange comings and goings at an empty garage in a mostly empty lot in the middle of the night. My husband came home a little while later. The neighbor noticed him several times before and saw that he was holding a camera, so he went out to confront him. The guy told him he's a private detective. My mind began to swirl. A private detective? Which of my neighbors was he spying on, and why? He might want to work on his undercover skills, I said. I mean, if we noticed him. My husband laughed. Still, I wanted to run across and ask him who he was spying on and why. Because if we leave it to my imagination, it'll probably end up in a book. What if he's spying on us, I said. For what? I don't know. And then the timer went off.
Oh, gosh.
That is so hilarious.
Because it's real life. That's the best part.
There is nothing untrue about this story.
I knew that it was all true when you said that your camera was perfectly focused on your dashboard. And I'm like, of course it was. Of course it was. That's awesome.
And I have the video to prove it.
You should have just popped some popcorn and walked over there and jumped in the passenger side and shared with us. And okay, who are we looking at?
I know, right?
Oh gosh, that was good, Tina. That was very enjoyable.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I mean, truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. It makes me think of Rhonda and how she was very much about historic or memoirs. Like, what did she call it? When you would you would write a true story, but you would creative nonfiction.
Creative nonfiction, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad that it was not you being surveilled.
Well, we still don't know.
We did once get a letter from the city saying that we were in trouble because more people were living in our house than were allowed because this is a parsonage and it belongs to the church. And only people that work for the church are allowed to live here. Turned out my son had neglected to change his address on his license.
Oh.
So we had to prove to the city that we were the only two living here. I was like, maybe that's why they're spying on us. Maybe they're trying to figure out who's living here. But
yeah, and honestly, like if you approach an undercover person who is surveilling you, what a better thing to say than like, oh, I'm surveilling people down the street. So that you suddenly are no longer suspicious of them and you just let them stay. Not to make you more paranoid.
I do need to tell my husband to stop walking through the living room in his underpants with the curtains open. Because you don't know what kind of lens that guy has on his camera.
So this may or may not be a good segue. Tina, is that your what's up for this
That's
week?
my what's up. Yeah, that was my
right.
drama and excitement for the week.
Okay. All right. Now, what about you? Have any writing on the horizon or any plans?
Just working on book 3. Is it book 3? Yep.
How nice of you guys to have multiple books to worry and wonder about. Someday that will be me. My what's up is, I don't remember. I feel like I had something to share with you guys and then it went completely out of my head. Yeah, my what's next, I don't know. I did not go to that writing group meetup last week because I attempted to go. That's what I can say. I attempted to go to like this singles mixer, and it was funny. I ordered a drink.
Wait, we're just now hearing about this?
Yeah, because it was a nothing burger. I got
go
a drink. I took 2 sips of it. I put it on the counter and I left. It's just like, I need an activity. I can't be in an environment where everybody's just standing around with the purpose of like, interviewing each other I just felt too, I'm not a singles mixer kind of a thing. Now, if you're like, we're going to kayak down the Au River together. Yeah, I'm there, and then if I, connect with somebody, okay, but I can't just like stand around with the purpose of like small talking with people. Ugh, just not my jam. If it is your jam, good for you. Go to town, but not for me.
I can't think of a single person that I know that would be their jam. I can't think of a single person.
And small talk, like, who even wants to do that?
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you guys that I used to have to be that person for the radio station I worked at in Boston? I was their token single person, and they had an account that was the Christian singles in Boston, and I used to go to events. Oh, salon conversation.
Yes.
That's a
Join
Patreon
the salon so you can hear some more. Yes. All right. What is up with you, Jen, and what's next? Sorry about your headache. Hopefully getting rid of that is first priority.
That's top priority, is getting rid of my headache. And I'm just plugging along on stuff, and got back this week from spending 10 days with my daughter and with my son and daughter-in-law and grandbaby. And so I feel like I'm still catching up with that stuff, but just a headache right now. I really can't think past that. So
okay, well, on that note, that concludes this episode of the Christianity Writers Podcast. Please pray for Jen. And until next week, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.